Welcome to episode 37 of the Unstoppable podcast with special guest Rob Moore. My name is Dan J. Gregory and I am committed to hunting down the secrets of business mastery and human performance. My goal for the Unstoppable podcast is to share insights from some of the most successful entrepreneurs, inspiring thought leaders, world-class athletes, and prominent celebrities to help you to become unstoppable in business and life. Each week I'll be bringing you a new interview with an inspiring person and sharing my own results as I pursue the answers to the question, how can I create the ultimate edge in my business, make a significant impact, and live an extraordinary life? Welcome to episode 37 of the Unstoppable podcast. Let's jump into it. This time last week, you heard from the fantastical Marcy Locke, where we took an incredibly deep dive into the mindset required to create an epic life. It was a truly insightful episode. If you haven't heard it yet, please do go check it out, episode number 35. And then on Monday, I paid homage to the late Muhammad Ali by giving you a glimpse into his greatness, and I shared 10 of his principles for success. And today I have an incredible show lined up for you with British serial entrepreneur Rob Moore. Rob is a triple best-selling property author, public speaker, entrepreneur, multi-million pound property investor and businessman, all of which he achieved by the age of 30. And I turned 33 this year, so I've got some catching up to do, but it's good to have people around who are setting the pace. However, it wasn't always this way for Rob, and up until 2005, he was struggling to make ends meet as an artist, selling his work for less than it was worth, if he could sell it at all, and he built up a debt of over £50,000 since leaving university, and he had become frustrated, reclusive, and he felt that he was missing out on something, and he knew there was more to life than money worries and unhappiness. So in today's show, you will discover Rob's turning point that led him to where he is now, having helped now over 100,000 entrepreneurs achieve financial freedom, including consulting for some of the most established multi-millionaires in the UK and sharing his keynotes at some of the best and biggest business events around the world. And we'll tackle topics like how to increase your net worth, how to create leverage in your business, and we discuss how you can get around people who can help you to build your empire. Are you ready to unleash? Let's dive in. It's always great to talk to a fellow British entrepreneur. So welcome to the show, Rob.
Hi, Dan, and hi, everyone. Really grateful that you want to interview me.
Great stuff, Rob. Would you mind giving the listeners a bit of a frame for what you're doing right now and what your business is all about?
Sure. Well, for me, I love business. I love entrepreneurship. I love growing, creating new challenges and opportunities. I'm very proud of the fact that I started on my kitchen table, if you like, with no money and no backers, and I have a business that probably does 15 million a year all in with no debt. Now, I don't say that to brag. I just say that that's what I love to do. And I get up every morning, even when you're having a bad day, I still get up thinking, okay, my bad days are great. So that's my passion. And to be honest, because I'm quite an entrepreneurial type, as I know many of the listeners are, I want every day to be a bit different. I want to challenge myself. I want it to be exciting. I want to grow. So, for example, right now, I wrote a book called Life Leverage, which went to number 2 in all books in the world on launch behind a book called Lean in 15, which was this crazy chef who was selling millions. Satan beat me.
Someone said he's the Russell Brand of food. I don't know about that.
Exactly. Yeah. Everywhere. I just couldn't get to number 1. I tried really hard. Hey, but I'm proud of that. And so we launched that internally. I did it self-published, and it did great. And then Hachette, the second biggest publisher in the world behind Penguin, accosted me, saw it, and bought the book off me, bought the rights. And they're launching it on June the 2nd. So they're relaunching it under their own brand. So I get to launch the same book twice, which is kind of awesome, isn't it? It's like getting married twice to someone you love, or getting divorced twice to someone you don't.
Or winning the World Cup 2 years running.
Exactly. Or winning it ever if you're England.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm focusing on now. And also my podcast, The Disruptive Entrepreneur, kind of, whilst I wanted it to be big and add value to people across the globe, because my personal vision is to create global financial freedom. So when I die, I want to have helped 1 billion or 5 billion or 7 billion people across the world make more money, make a difference, become more financially educated. That's my personal life's vision and mission. And so as long as I'm living that every day, serving and adding value, and also having my share of remuneration for that, because, hey, if we can't make profit as an entrepreneur, then what have we got?
Absolutely.
We have to be sustainable. People say money doesn't buy happiness. Fucking does. That is not true. So as long as I'm in that balance and flow, then that's what I'm doing. But the disruptive entrepreneur doesn't cost anyone anything. And we have, over 150,000 subscribers in 130 odd countries, constantly wrestling with Tim Ferriss to be the number one in business. And he's like another one of my dual challenges at the moment. Not that I'm competitive. So I'm doing those two things mostly. And thirdly is playing golf with my son. So my son just turned 5. But when he was 4, he qualified for the World 6-under Golf Championships. So we're going to San Diego in July. He's playing back-to-back World Championships.
Wow.
So I try and play golf every day with my son. He's a bit of you could call him a prodigy, but just through playing golf every day. So they're the 3 things I'm mostly doing with my life. I didn't really talk about progressive property or unlimited success or my property portfolio because they're the main things that I've done in the last 10 years. Because we have an MD, we have 55 staff in the office, we have probably pushing 100 outsourcers, VAs, etc. So I'm no longer operational in the business. I'm never really there, and it runs without me.
Yeah, let's touch on that, Rob, because you've got a huge vision, and my favorite thing when I interview guests on the show is to really get into the vision and understand what they're trying to achieve and the motivators behind it. But I guess it didn't start that way. How did life start out for you as an entrepreneur? Where did it all begin? What was the kind of defining moment that made you want to step into the world of entrepreneurship?
Sure. So two answers to that question. One is an answer from a mentor, and then the other one is the answer to the question. So one of my mentors, John DeMartini, who's just an amazing genius, and he once said to me, if you want to get a result for yourself, you need at least a vision the size of your family. If you want to help your family, you need a vision at least the size of your local community, your village, your town. If you want to you want to grow your town, you need maybe a county vision. If you want to get results in your county, you need a national vision. If you want to get results nationally, you need a global vision. If you want to get results globally, you need an intergalactic vision. And there are people like Elon Musk and Richard Branson who are exploring space on behalf of humanity. And I remember that really sticking with me. And I think the balance being an entrepreneur is balancing own self-interest. You might call that a narcissism. I want to make money. I want to build my own confidence. I want my own business. I want my own brand. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. You have to have that drive. But balancing that with altruism and serving other people and charities and your local communities and employing people and paying taxes and business rates and, making a difference and blah, blah. And when you've got those finally in balance, you've got high self-worth, high net worth, and you're also highly valued by society. And when you get out of balance, i.e. you're too charity-based, giving to everybody else, you self-negate. But then when you're too self-focused and you don't add enough value to your customers, your societies, then they will overthrow you or they will damage your brand. And that will cost you personally. So that stuck with me. He told me that like 8 years ago.
Wow.
And I think it's a really powerful lesson. So basically what happened to me was I needed to sort myself out first because I was £50,000, which if you're listening in Australian dollars or American dollars or even in the sort of Thailand currency, that's a lot of money.
It's a fair wage in any currency.
1 trillion African dollars or something. So I was in a lot of personal debt. And charity starts at home and therefore you've got to sort yourself out. So I had very much a personal vision. I need to make money for myself. I need passive income. And then I didn't have kids or, I was single at that time. But then when I sorted myself out, made money, because it started with me through property. I built a property portfolio, 20 properties in year 1, another 30 in year 2, another 50 in year 3. We've got 650 now. And the passive income from that is pretty significant.
Was there a moment, Rob, when you were sure. in that debt, was there a moment when it became to the point where you said enough's enough, and that was the point of change? Do you remember what made you to actually step up and make the decision to change your life around, to turn your life around?
Yeah, well, it was December the 15th, 2005, when I was working in my dad's pub. I was working part-time in my dad's pub because I couldn't afford to sustain my living expenses. And I was full-time as an artist. So that was my first venture into entrepreneurialism. And I was failing at both. And I had a strained relationship with my family who worked in the pub because we hated each other because we were working together. Mm. And, being the typical artist, I was very non-commercial, very arty, and therefore couldn't really embrace the capitalist side of it and was just giving my paintings away, basically, barely at the cost. And then my dad had a nervous breakdown in his pub in front of all of his customers on December the 15th, which is also his birthday. And he was sectioned by the police, and he got put into Ward 5 in our local psychiatric hospital, and we weren't able to see him for quite a few months. And that was like a rude awakening for me. And, on that day and around that time, I had a lot of self-introspection, where I blamed myself for a lot of that. Because, my dad was a serial entrepreneur, and he instilled in me the values and skills to be a serial entrepreneur. And then I wasted it at uni, just getting drunk all the time and buying liabilities instead of assets and not contributing, being too self-focused, maybe being, I was uncoachable, maybe a bit arrogant, or at least lacking so much confidence I wouldn't have mentors, or I didn't think I could be taught anything new. I had all a serious sort of, anything that you've ever taught your audience, and being an entrepreneur, I was the opposite of that. And then on that day and around that time, I was like, if I carry on down this road, my dad's going to be dead. I'm going to be living with regret for the rest of my life, and something has to change. And then I just started ferreting around, learning. Now, I think one of the problems a lot of startup entrepreneurs have is they want to know the how. And, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, in the entrepreneurial world about your why. And Simon Sinek wrote a great book on it. And, you and I are always talking about vision. But the truth really is, once you get an inspired vision, or you have a greater why, then the how will take care of itself. And then all of a sudden, this chain reaction of almost serendipitous random events happen that didn't happen before. So weirdly, I used to rent I only had a tiny 2-bed house that I'd put on a credit card to get the deposit. And I had a flatmate living with me because I couldn't afford all the mortgage. And he saw what was happening, and saw that I wanted to make a change. And he said, hey, I've got these CDs under my bed. And he pulled them out, and there's this massive box. And I used to paint listening to heavy metal. I was really one of these hot, I was a really down, dark artist, painting in black and blood red. And he gave me these CDs, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? Now, he could have given me them a year ago, and I'd have said, what's this personal development shit, And I put them on, and there was this massive American, larger-than-life voice blurting out of my speaker, and I was like, I hate this. I was this typically British, culturally inept individual where, anything about positivity or personal development or making money was frowned upon. And it actually was Tony Robbins.
Wow, yeah.
And sort of, 1 or 2 CDs in, I'm like, I don't really like this. I don't like this guy's voice. What is this? No one can be that happy. There's got to be something wrong with him. And then sort of after CD 4 or 5, I was hooked, and I listened to it over and over and over again. And that started my personal development world. And since then, I've invested, nearly £1 million in the last decade on personal development. I'm the biggest personal development junkie ever. I love having mentors, coaches, trainers. I love doing personal development seminars. I love learning. I read 150 books last year. I'm already on 140. I'll probably get to 300 this year.
Wow.
And now I'm an individual mentor and coach to hundreds of thousands of people now, but I believe I'm a humble student. Wow. So that's kind of how I got started.
So Rob, I think, there's bound to be a number of people listening to the show who I think I always say to the guests, this show is not about looking up to people, it's about looking into people. And when they hear that story of that moment of change, when that individual who's now gone on to be so successful had that real challenging environment at the time, but then in a moment of decision decided to make things different. Yeah. What was the next step that you took? So obviously you discovered personal development and changed your mindset. In terms of getting started in your business, what was the first thing that you did to get your business on the road?
Okay, there's a few things. I'll just try and make them brief, Dan. So one of my public speaking mentors, and he's American, and you'll see why when I say this quote, and I love him. He says, the skill set without the mindset will leave you upset. Wow. And therefore, I realized quite soon, thanks to mentors, that I needed to balance the skill set and the mindset. Whilst mindfulness and a bit of meditation and a bit of the Zen-like qualities is great, it's not really how I am, and I'll embrace it. But I'm not the sort of person that's going to sit there with my legs folded, singing Kumbaya and meditating and expecting money to fall out of the sky and be rich through manifestation without getting off your ass and doing some work. At the same time, as an entrepreneur, you can work and 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 work without being mindful of a strategy and a vision that you're doing the right things. So I had the wrong mindset and the wrong skill set. Then I started developing my mindset, but then you also have to balance having the right skill set. So that's the right business model, the right assets, understanding the difference between investing and speculating or gambling, having a business model that innovates, that's got a future. We can have a great mindset, but if you get into the wrong business model that's dying, then that's not smart. But at the same time, if you're in a good business model, but you don't have a innovation mindset, a growth mindset, a problem solving mindset, and a serving and a solving mindset, you're going to fail in that business model. So I guess what I was able to do, and I want to make this clear, I'm not a bragger, and I'm a student and I'm still learning. I'm in my mid-30s. People often say to me, Rob, what's your exit strategy? Death. I'm very clear on that. I'm planning to have at least another 60 years of hard passion. And then I'm going to die a day before my fiance, who will then be my wife, because I don't want to live without her. Wow. And I've got it all planned. And I'm going to live till I'm at least 100. So I'm a student every day. But I think if you balance skill set and mindset, you learn, what assets create passive income, what assets can you leverage. That's why I love property. But you also learn that every challenge is an opportunity. Every difficulty you can innovate through. That you've always got to disrupt your industry, yourself. I think when you balance those, and I'd say about a year in to my business career, I kind of got that epiphany. But the first model for me was property or real estate to many of your, global listeners. But you can't build a property portfolio without the right mindset. So, scaling, creating systems, you can only manage 5 or 10 tenants yourself going around collecting the rents before it's a full-time job. So how do you embrace having systems so you can go from 5 properties to 50 to 500? When you've got 650 tenants, there's a lot of challenges and issues. So you might need your own letting agency. You might need a team of people that sort of deal with the gatekeeping so that, I don't ever speak to any of my tenants. I don't ever deal with any of the operational sides of property. I just like to make sure that all the income comes on the first day of the month. So I only have 30 maximum days of depression. When you look at your bank and the first day of the month, you've got 650 rents coming in. Hey, life's sweet again.
Yes.
So yeah, it's probably a balance of those things, Dan.
So I want to touch on property. I know that that's where you kind of had your entrepreneurial beginnings, and you have an enormous expertise in that field. For the listeners at this point who perhaps haven't entered into the world of property, who is property for? And the second part to that is how does someone get started in the property industry?
Okay, so I believe property is for anyone who wants passive income, wants to replace a pension, wants to have control of their own retirement, wants to get on the rich list, wants to leave a legacy, wants to have something for their kids to pass on, wants to build an empire. I believe that's who's property for. So for me, that ticks most people, and pretty much everything I just said there is what I love and what I want, and what our communities of hundreds of thousands of people want too. But one thing I never want to feel too smart to know is that everyone wants something different. So that's whose property is for. And what was the second part of the question, Dan?
How does someone get started? What's the first thing people need to think about or start doing to get involved in terms of the property industry and how to make a passive income through property?
Okay. So that question is a big question. So I think the first thing is the how will come. So you've got to make the decision. And as you said, Dan, everything starts with a decision. And people who are dabbling, dipping their toe in the water and perennially researching, there has to come a day when you go, fuck it, I'm doing it.
Yes.
And, if I make mistakes, I'll put my hands up. I'll learn through it. And is it a risk? Yeah, but if you don't risk anything, you risk everything. And what's the greater risk? Is the greater risk getting into business and investing in property, or living for 40 years working for someone else and relying on the state to pay your pension? What's the biggest risk? So the start is the decision, the never looking back. That's the start. Then the next thing is self-educating. Now, what I love about property, and what also is the challenge for a lot of people across the world, is it's quite unregulated, and it's not really the things taught at schools and universities. And yes, you can get letters after your name for property management and property maintenance and other things. The entrepreneurial side of building a property portfolio and creating passive income and replacing your pension is quite unregulated, and it's very entrepreneurial, and it's not really taught in schools and universities that much. So the great thing about that is if you've got a hunger to be an entrepreneur, then you can learn from other entrepreneurs who want to give back and teach this. So on Facebook, we have a community called the Progressive Property Community. We've got, in one private group, we've got 10,500 people who are all actively in property, talking about property, sharing about property. It's free to join. It's not a plug, by the way. It's just that there's others that have 20,000. And this is free, and Facebook is free. And thanks to Facebook, which doesn't charge you. I find it ironic when a few people moan about a few ads on Facebook, when you can set up your business for free, reach millions or billions of people for free, all over the globe for free, make a difference, make a load of money for free. And
Absolutely.
A great part of the reach of my disruptive entrepreneur community has come through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, blah, blah, blah. So we're in the world of abundant opportunity with all these free platforms to scale and serve. And all they want is the ability to advertise a bit. And they even let us click a button which says hide it if we don't like it. Sorry if I've gone a bit off track there. We knew that had happened. So decide, then go learn.
Yes.
And learning the entrepreneurial way may be more than the get yourself in 50 to 70,000 pounds worth of debt 7 years later to have a few letters after your name to then go and start getting a job at 25 grand. That's not how I did it. And that's not what's worked for me. And then build a network of people. So it was very kind of you, Dan, to say that, I'm an expert and I know a lot in property, and I'm very grateful. I don't want to rob the compliment from you, but I also want to say that I don't perceive myself that way. I don't perceive myself as a guru or an expert. In fact, what I perceive myself to be is a passionate, hungry generalist who has a vision, and then I want to align myself with smarter people than me in every niche I can find. So if someone's got a bigger, better podcast, if someone's written a bigger, better book, if someone's got more properties, if they're they're stronger, fitter, faster, they know more about a niche, they are my mentor. And I'm going to Monaco for the Grand Prix. I go there every year. I love the Grand Prix. It's the first year I'm taking my son. I'm so excited. It's going to be like the most amazing experience for him. And a friend and a mentor of mine is called Andreas Paniottou. Now, most people who are non-UK might not know him, but he's a billionaire. And he's just bought Roberto Cavalli's boat. And to put this into perspective, I have 14 cars. And one of them is a Ferrari 458 Spider. That cost me around about £165,000 because I bought it secondhand. And to fill Andreas's boat with diesel or boat fuel once, to do one trip out of the dock, is £35,000 more than I paid at the time for a Ferrari 458 Spider.
It's phenomenal.
And he had nearly 7,000 properties before the recession of 07, 08. And that puts into perspective that A, you need to get around mentors, and B, there are always people at a higher level than you. And so I make it my mission now to leverage and piggyback and learn from people like that. And my wealth has dramatically increased when the net worth of my network has dramatically increased. I was having dinner with a good friend, Neville Wright, who sold kiddie care for 75 million, is worth north of 100 million. I've got someone coming on my podcast who's worth about 2 billion, according to Forbes. Nice. I have Lord Alan Sugar, who, for those who are in the UK don't know him, he's the guy for The Apprentice. He's worth 800 million. I'm interviewing him for our podcast. I had Gerald Ratner on my podcast, who at one point had half the UK jewellery business, and he was doing billions of pounds a year in turnover. Now, you've got to balance that, because like you said, you said an amazing quote. You'll have to remind me of it, but it's not about... Could you remind me about that? It's within them. You made a quote which I was really inspired.
It's not about looking up to someone. It's about looking within them.
Exactly. Now, these guys aren't better than me. They've just got better results in a niche. I could teach Lord Sugar loads of stuff. I could teach Andreas Paniottou loads of stuff. I could teach Gerald Ratner loads of stuff. And they can teach me loads of stuff. And so you have this network where you add value in some areas and they add value in other areas. Because people always ask me, Rob, well, if you're just starting out, how can you get all these millionaires and billionaires and experts and gurus to want to work with you? Well, the way is that you can serve them somehow, and you can add value to their lives somehow, and then they can, through reciprocity, do that with you. So I've written 8 books now. I'm pretty prolific at writing. I've helped a lot of people write books. And so 3 of those people that I mentioned, and I'm not going to say their names because that's not right to say, but 3 of those people I mentioned, I'm helping them write their next book. Wow. Whether it's their autobiography or whatever, because I've written a lot of books and it's easy to me. So if I find how I can help and serve them, then they're going to want to spend time with me, helping and serving me. And, Yeah, and the more of those people I have in my network, the faster my results come.
Absolutely. Now, Rob, you raised a really interesting point, and you answered kind of my next question is about how does someone network up. But I guess one of the challenges I see in people is that they have this enormous ability within themselves, but their mindset doesn't allow them to own or claim their worth or own their superpower, which, if you don't own yourself and your superpower, then you're never going to be able to get into that network because you're never going to feel like you're worthy enough to actually add value to the people who are perceived to be above or more successful than you are. So in terms of mindset, talk to me about your personal philosophy when it comes to having a successful mindset and claiming your worth and the kind of characteristics you need to embody to be successful as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, this is an amazing question. And the deeper I've dived into kind of skill set and mindset of being an entrepreneur, that this is the thing that you get to. You've probably seen, and everyone listening has probably seen that visual of the iceberg, where you see the tip above the sea and then that massive 7/8 of it below the waterline. And I believe you've got really deep. That question is a deep dive. So I believe that self-worth is net worth, and that is linked. So I think what people do is they over or under pedestalize someone. So they put someone on a pedestal, i.e., wow, isn't Donald Trump, Lord Sugar, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, aren't they amazing entrepreneur billionaires, blah, blah, I could never be like that, wow, I'm not worthy. And then, therefore, what you do is you diminish your own self-worth by positioning yourself against them. But then on the other side of it, what people do is they put other people in what you might call a pit, so a pedestal or a pit. And the pit is, look at them, they're not worthy of me. And I believe that we all have unique talents and genius, and we all have a unique purpose to be here on this planet. If we didn't, we wouldn't serve humanity and we would be evolved out. And, if two people had exactly the same vision and values, one wouldn't be needed. So I think if we all fundamentally believe we all have a vision, a mission and a path, and we all have value to add and a thing to serve, whether you want to be, a fourth dan in martial arts, or whether you want to bake the best cakes or be the best mother to your child, like a Jackie Kennedy was, or whether, you want to be the best bodybuilder in the world, or, you want to win the Tiddlywinks World Championships, or you want to be it doesn't matter. But, if you think about all of these things across the planet that are all service to fellow human beings, we all have a unique place. Now, the people that make the biggest difference, grow in their network, their net worth, their self-worth, are the people who find what that is and then go and serve it and serve others and discover that and live that as a legacy. Absolutely. And that's not for everyone. Some people are born to be the tenant. Some people are born to be the landlord. Some people are born to be the servant. Some people are born to be the leader. That, and I never look down or demean on the tenant or the servant or the employee. I just think that's patronizing, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they look down a bit about that, and they almost make it out to them to be a loser. But without an employee, I wouldn't have a business. Without a tenant, I wouldn't be a landlord. So, but if that person, that landlord, that tenant, that employee wants to be something more, then I can help them.
Yes.
So it's balancing, pedestalizing mentors so that you can learn from them, and being humble enough to be a student and not shamed or arrogant to not want to learn from them. But then also knowing that you have value and offer and service, and because when you're a student, you've got lower self-worth. When you're an expert, you have a higher self-worth. But when you have a high self-worth, you stop learning. When you have a lower self-worth, you have that hunger and desire to learn. That's why entrepreneurs probably work hardest when they start, because they have that kind of lower self-worth. But it's all linked. So if you can increase your self-worth, you'll increase your net worth. And you can increase your net worth by increasing your network. And the only way to increase your network is to use your phrase, which I'd love to borrow with your permission, Dan.
Yes.
Is to network up. Because if you network down, it makes your self-worth increase, but it reduces your net worth because your net worth is linked to the net worth in your network. So 10 years ago, the net worth in my network was combined like minus £100,000.
Yeah.
Now if I pick up my phone and go through my saved favorites contacts list and take out, maybe family, everyone else in there is worth 100 million, 2 billion, 5 billion, 10 million, or they're one of the best accountants or solicitors or tax advisors or personal trainers or whatever. So it's balancing those things and not putting yourself down, not compare. I think there's someone really famous had an amazing quote, which is comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, great quote.
So stop comparing yourself to other people, other than to go, wow, you inspire me to be more like that. I'm going to learn from you. And then you look at someone else who you can serve and go, hey, I've got good self-worth in this area.
It's fascinating. I mean, I remember being a student, and we were walking through the city centre, and I was with one of my friends, and this guy drove past in this really flash. I can't remember what it was, like a Lambo or a Ferrari. It's a really nice car at the time. And my reaction was like, wow, I would love to learn to how to earn enough money to have this car. Whereas my friend went on a rant about what a bastard the guy was, and lucky. And it's like, you know nothing about this guy. It was so fascinating. And I think what you said there about, if you see someone you do admire, don't compare. Don't compare and belittle yourself. Look at them and think, wow, they've done something amazing. Because I always think as well, there'll become a point in your career and your entrepreneurial journey where you'll create that, if you persist and you push and push and push, you'll create the result that you're looking for. And in that moment, you'll want people to turn around and celebrate your victory in the way that you would want, that you should celebrate other people's victories. So when you see people succeeding at a level, take the things that they've done and learn from it, but also celebrate that victory, because one day it'll be your turn and you want people to look at you thinking, wow, that guy's worked so hard, he's done so well, rather than he was lucky, he's a lucky bastard. That's not what you want people to think about you. So I think it all starts that mindset in terms of how can I learn from this person. I also remember as well, a couple of years ago, I was playing squash, and I've never been a good squash player, but I was playing this guy at first and I knew I could beat him. Every single week I'd play and I'd win. And I was like, there's no satisfaction in this anymore. So I started playing this guy at a much higher level and I would get thrashed. But for me, I was growing. My skill was getting better and better. And the only way to get better in life is to surround yourself with people who can help you raise the game. If you're training if a footballer is training for a lower division club and he's got premiership capability, you should be training on premiership players. So I think it's so important to have that network to help you raise your game. And it's often, even if it's not people in your own industry, it's just the mindset and the way people look at life and the action they take in their business. There's so much you can absorb from this network of people.
Can I just jump in there then, Dan?
Yes, of course, Rob, yeah.
I could talk all day about this, and I agree with it. And loads of examples came into my mind, like I'm a Liverpool fan for my sins. And Luis Suarez moved from Liverpool, and I was like, the whole of anyone who supported Liverpool was gutted. But look at how his career has taken off, because he's put himself with the best players on the planet, and he's just won the Golden Boot. And, there's an example. Now, you've got to obviously balance that with loyalty. But the thing I wanted to add is, when one pedestalizes someone and therefore feels a lack of self-worth due to the comparison, one is forgetting one's own genius. And I learn something from everyone. And if you look for the genius in everyone you meet, you find it. And if you look for the genius in yourself, you find it. And if you look at the genius in others and forget the genius in you, that's where the comparison is the thief of joy. And it's balancing that, because you need that void to fill. Axiology is the study of values, and values are mostly created from voids. So I call this the entrepreneur's curse. We want more. We never celebrate. We're never happy. We get $3,000 a month. We want 5. We get 5. We want 10. We want get 10. We want 50. We get 100. We want 1 million. We want to get 1 million. We want to be 1 billion. And as soon as we're competitive, and it's like a void that can never fill. Were that filled, we'd go and sit around a tree, hug, sing Kumbaya, and we wouldn't procreate, and then we'd die out.
Yes.
So we're balancing these things. But if one is never feeling enough, one is forgetting one's own unique genius. If someone in the planet is putting you down, someone on the planet is pedestalizing you.
That's a really good point. Rob, I'm really curious, in terms of finding your own zone of genius, your superpower or your special sauce, how did you go about finding your unique genius? Was that an organic process, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, well, I am a bit English about this. I'm kind of a bit uncomfortable talking about my unique genius, which is ironic compared to I've just said everyone they should. I have a nice watch collection. Does that help? No. Okay. So, yeah, I think that for me, it's an organic evolutionary process of progress. So it's not like one day you wake up and go, wow, here's my genius. I found it. Thanks. And then it's done. Because if you link it to the purpose of life, now I'm certainly no, life guru, but I do believe from the people I've studied in biology and, if you look at Stephen Hawking or anybody else, it seems to be that evolution is growth, and contribution So what you contribute to humanity, how humanity contributes, to the ecology. Yes. That seems to be what the purpose of life is, because if a species doesn't grow and doesn't evolve, ultimately it is evolved out of society and it becomes extinct.
Yes.
Through our journey, and so I believe it is with business and finding your own unique genius and talents. Now, your unique genius might be that you're at level A in something, B in something, C in something, D in something, and E in something. I.e., your unique genius might not be you ever get to be the best in the world at something. Now, I would like to be. But for me, up until the age of probably 27, 28, and still to this day, I'm a bit like this. I'm the kind of person that gets quite good at a lot of things, but never great at one thing. And that was always good at school because it made me relatively popular and did good at exams and good at sport and all that kind of stuff. But I never really got known for one thing, and I never became great at one thing. And I always admired people who were great at one thing, but I always seemed to flip between. And like I did a lot of martial arts down over sort of in my 20s. And as soon as I get to brown belt, I kind of get a bit bored and I go and do another art. And I got myself sort of 2 or 3 black belts and, a couple of like blue belts. Whereas I admire the person who got the 4th or the 5th Dan.
Yes. Yep.
But that was my unique place. That was my unique talent. That was me. And if I always look at the 5th Dan and go, oh man, I wish I was like you, I've either got to decide to be like that and drop all the other arts, or I've got to accept the fact that I'm the mixed martial arts guy and my unique talents and genius isn't the best, but it's doing all these different things.
Yes.
And in a way, that's what our entrepreneurs are like that, aren't we? We're generalists. We've got to know about sales. We've got to know about marketing. We've got to know about product launches. We've got to know what's going on in accounts and finance. We've got to have some kind of leadership skill. We've got to maybe be able to public speak. Maybe we've got to have a little bit of an idea of tech. We've got to read books. We've got to go to seminars. I could go on and on and on, but we're never going to be the best at one of those. But what we do is we hire the best of all of those.
Yes, absolutely.
So what my unit, I'm still searching, Dan. This is kind of what I'm trying to get to the point is, and it's never a closed book. I always want to learn and grow. But I think contributing to humanity to help people learn about being an entrepreneur and make more money and make a difference, I think that's mine. And I know I've got room to grow because I've only helped about 400,000 people and there are 7 billion people on the planet. And by the time I get to 50 and 60, there's probably going to be 8 billion people on the planet. And that's good news for me because that's more people to help.
Yes.
So I think that's mine. And when I say I think, I mean I know.
Yes.
But what I also know is it's okay to evolve. And when I'm 50 or 60 or 70 or 80, it may have manifested into a different form and that's okay. But I'm excited by that. Because if I woke up tomorrow and I did the same tomorrow as I do today and I knew that was the next 65 years, I'd just ask someone to push me off a bridge.
Well, I think the great thing about what you've said, Rob, is that you've allowed yourself to have that organic evolutionary process, that exploratory journey that's enabled you to identify your current zone of genius. And there's nothing to say that won't change as you change, as the world changes, as technology changes. I think I come across so many people who are searching so intently for their one thing before they even get started. And it's like, you'll only find it by engagement, not by thinking about it. You have to engage. You have to take action. You have to step up and try it. If you go full out and try something out and it sucks and it's absolutely not your thing, at least you found that out. But you can't ever think into that result. You have to take action and get there. And I think what I admire about what you've said is, you've done so many different things and currently, exploring for the next thing and growing yourself and growing a network and your net worth. And it's only going to bring more and more into your life for doing that. Whereas so many people avoid taking the first step. And I know that a lot of people listening to this audience may be in that position. And it's interesting you used the landlord-tenant situation earlier. The people I worry about are the tenants who want to become landlords but are just thinking about it and not taking the first step. And I use that metaphorically. And I think one of my core goals of this podcast is to just yank people from the sofa and get them into action and help them really just take those first few steps, because the only way to find any form of greatness at any level is to really step into it. And it's just been refreshing to hear your journey and how you've taken those steps to get there. And that's one of my core missions, to help get people into action. And then it's just refreshing to hear that from yourself. So Rob, as we go into the kind of final part of the interview, I'd be really, in terms of leverage, I really want to talk about what it takes to create a leverage in your business. But can we start with what does your typical day look like, Rob?
Okay, get up at between 5 and 5:30 a.m. I get up anyway, but if I don't, my son will run in the room and jump all over me, so that's pretty much done. I go to Costa Coffee, which is my favorite coffee house, and I have probably too many coffee shots in a cup for sustained health, but at the moment I'm happy with that. And I've set up my house to have everything I want to be able to work, play, and live there. So I have 2 gyms. I have home automation. I have on every screen in the house, I have the ability to put my laptop or device onto it. And I don't say that to go, well, look at me. I say that because the ability to have leverage, it relies on you being able to do anything you need wherever you are. And the great thing about technology right now with outsourcing and virtual assistants and apps and iPhones and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all of that, it's just so amazing. I just want to quickly pause myself and say, if anyone thinks that it's hard right now, get out your own way. It's the easiest thing right now to make money and make a difference. Virtually every marketing platform that reaches the planet is free. And you can do everything from your phone, from wherever you are. We can do this from anywhere in the world, what we're doing here, with stuff we can take and travel around. So it really is an abundant opportunity. Okay, so what I'll mostly do is I'll get back about 6:15, and from 6:15 till about 7:15, I'll write, whether that's contributing on social media or writing chapters for my next book, because I've always got a book being written. I'm writing my 8th at the moment. Wow. Or it's, future blogs, because I love writing, and writing is a big part of leverage. So I'll write, and also I will either respond to emails that are important that need a response, because they'll be the first thing that my team see in the morning when I email at that time. Yep. Or I'll send off all the tasks and actions for my team for the day. Then 7:15, I'll do putting with my son. So I built a big chipping and putting green in the garden in the house, and also in his bedroom, I built a big putting green into his bedroom. I'm very on a mission to have him be the next world #1 golfer. He's the youngest person in the world to have a hole-in-one. He got it when he was 3 with his 5-iron. Amazing. So we do that together most days. I mean, look, sometimes he doesn't want to. And then from sort of 8 o'clock, my day's done in terms of I don't need to work anymore, although that's not work. But what I'll often do is, if there are any coaches, trainers, speakers, or high-level people in my businesses, because 2 of my training businesses have 115 trainers who train the courses that I used to run years gone back. Yeah. So I have my spaces 8 to 8:30 and 8:30 to 9 to booking calls. I never answer the phone unless it's 8 to 8:30, 8:30 to 9, or if it's my business partner or my fiance. I never answer the phone, because otherwise I'll be answering the phone hundreds of times a day. And so many people say, I'm on the phone all day answering it. Well, don't answer it then. So, I've got 2 PAs and a researcher full time. So it's pretty hard to get me on the phone. But if people want me on the phone, they go through those channels. And that's when I do the calls. And interestingly, I did 2 this morning, but I'm normally only doing about 2 or 3 a week. And then from 9, I'll probably bore and annoy people for the rest of the day. So sometimes I go into the office, I'll meet with the MD, and I'll how are we going? Checking in with the vision. But then I'm free. I'll try, and I always love having podcasts and books and audios on in my ear. Travel every school holiday to take my son around the world to play golf. So we do Dubai, we do Florida, we do Tenerife, we do all different countries around the world every time, because the weather can be pretty shit in England, as you know. So I want to do that. I always want to learn. So I love investing, business, always want to learn, meeting with, but pretty much from 9:30, my day is done. I do occasionally mentor people. So I've got, my mentoring is expensive, but that's good because it creates a high quality of client. So I have 2 evenings a month where I do some mentoring calls and one-to-ones. Yeah, that's kind of it. So I make sure that anything in terms of vision, legacy, business is done by 9 o'clock in the morning.
Before we go into the quick final round, Rob, what's been the most important factor in enabling you to create that leverage in your business?
Get the fuck out of your own way. Wow, that was quite aggressive, wasn't it? But the thing is, everything everyone fears about scaling and leverage, everybody who's done it has gone through it. So here they are. Number one, oh, well, no one can do my job as well as me. Or if I give them a job, they'll mess it up. Or I'm so busy doing this thing, I haven't got time to write systems or to train people or whatever. You know, or they have this ego attached to needing to be the boss or having their name above the door. And every entrepreneur who's got a team has to go through having bad staff, training them badly yourself, having them leave, having them nick your database, having them sleep with other staff members, going through tribunals, having systems that break all the time, having team members that represent you, your brand, and doing it badly, and having turnover and blah blah blah. And if you ask anyone who's got a big team, they've all got those stories.
Yes.
So if you accept it as part of growth, let go of the over control. Go through the process, embrace the process, let go a bit, because if you let people grow and you give them autonomy, they will. If you micromanage them and get in their way and have too much control, they won't. And no one loves to be micromanaged. And I've gone through, I'm so protective of my own brand, the brand of my name, the brand of my business. Of course we are. But there's that balance. And sometimes you have to let go to grow. And then once you get your head around that, my dad always used to say, when he was like a busy, hard-up entrepreneur, he used to say that the two worst thing about business is staff and customers. And I found that rather funny. And so he wasn't really embracing that. Yep. But we're in a world now where you can outsource everything. You can pay by the minute. You can crowdsource your products and services by asking your communities and customers and fans what they want and then giving it to them. You can hold no stock. You can outsource the design. You can outsource the marketing. So, it's not that hard, but it's the a desire to control holds people back. So I'd say that's the main thing about embracing leverage and growth. And by the way, there's always another level. There's always another level. I don't write my own emails anymore. So emails that go out to all of us, we have 135,000 people who are on our email databases, and my signature name is at the bottom of them. But we have 4 different copywriters. So every time a mistake goes out, it's not the copywriter who's getting the schlap, it's me.
Yes.
I'm not a trainer in our business anymore. We have 115 trainers. But as soon as a trainer gets a bad score on a feedback form or something comes out on social media, that's me, my name, my brand. Sure. But hey, I'm rich, and that's the price you pay.
Financially and time rich. I think that's the key thing. And
I want to grow, and that's only going to get bigger and more. But
to be able to grow, you need the space to be able to do it. And I think leverage is the one way. So that's really powerful. Rob, so we're just going to go into the final quick fire round now.
Sure.
So the first question is, if you had to start all over again, knowing absolutely everything that you know right now from scratch, what would be the very first thing that you would do to start your business?
Okay, well, I've made nearly 50 million quid. So why would I do anything different?
Good answer. Nice.
However, if I was going back, I would find someone like me and study, learn, honor, copy, and be mentored by them. And I would embrace mentoring quicker, and I'd scale and leverage and hire quicker. But everything else, I'd probably do the same because I'm okay with the journey so far.
Awesome. What's been the most game-changing piece of advice that you've ever personally received and then implemented?
That you are a unique genius and you have unique talents and skills that other people are inspired by. So when you discover, honor, and serve that, you've found your place and the meaning of life. And then when you continue to serve that, you'll grow and get everything that you want, and you'll help other people achieve the same. Probably something along those lines. In addition to that, I know this is quick fire, but this is bloody important. It is that any one-sided delusional perception is probably the biggest path to sustained unhappiness and unfulfillment. So in my days before being an entrepreneur, I was pretty much negative about everything and therefore pretty bitter and unhappy. And then once I became into Tony Robbins and personal development and, listening to all the positive mindset CDs and then MP3s, I was trying to be happy and positive about everything and, meditate myself out of every challenge. But there is no one-sided reality. You can't have the baby without the labor pains. You can't have a lot of money and opulent items without jealousy, envy, people scratching it, your cars, people trying to steal things from you, your insurance costs going through the roof. I told you that on one of those Ferraris I've got. Well, I had a Ferrari when I bought my first Ferrari. I had it for 5 days, and I crashed it into the News International building, which print the Sun and the Mirror in the UK. And I'm now on the largest crashes website, and that cost £98,000 to repair.
Gosh.
And it's all over the mainstream media.
Wow.
Now, if I had a B-Reg Vauxhall Nova, that wouldn't have been in the press, and I wouldn't have had that bad press. But what's the price I want to pay? Do I want to not be known, or do I want to be known? But therefore, when I'm known, I have critics and challenges and trolls, and so you've got to imbalance all sides, and know the cost of what you're doing, and embrace it, and embrace challenge as well as happiness and fulfillment, and not be deluded that, a lot of people when they get into business think, I can have passive income and I can have my own business and I don't get told what to do and I'm going to love it all day, every day. No, you're going to have days when it's shit. You're going to have days when you're going through extreme challenge. But I love waking up knowing that I run my own ship. I'm the controller of my own destiny. I can make a decision and it can make millions of pounds. I can make a decision and it can help millions of people. And I accept the fact that I'm going to have more critics, more trolls, more defamation, more slander. It costs about 15 grand to change the clutch in one of my cars. The insurance premium on all of my cars and everything is huge. Social media, we have, hundreds of thousands of customers and fans, but we have people who go and slander. I just accept it as a whole.
Yes.
And I think when you do that, you have more sustainability, because there's no point going hard for a year and then just giving up.
Absolutely. Rob, so the final question is, what does it mean to be unstoppable to you?
To be unstoppable, it means to do something very small each day, but keep doing it. It doesn't mean grandiose, massive victories, big wins, epic successes that we all fantasize over and they produce in the movies. The reality is we can have those days, but those days might happen once every month, week, year, or decade. But they are the culmination of very small, sustained, daily, pretty average, pretty boring steps. So being unstoppable is doing that. It is the continued slight edge every day, a little bit better. Now, Clive Woodward, when he took over the England World Rugby team, famously looked to improve every area of rugby 1%. And you've got strength, you've got stamina, you've got scrumming, you've got all the different positions, you've got the tackle, you've got how quick you get up from the tackle, you've got the ruck, you've got the maul, you've got all these different things. And he wanted to get 1% better in every area. And he took England from nothing to winning the World Cup. So, and the great thing about that is it doesn't put any pressure on yourself. You don't compare yourself to Richard Branson or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever. You know that if you just get up, roll your sleeves up and just try and do a little bit more and be a little bit better, then you're going to be unstoppable.
That's a great way to end the show. And Rob, the final thing is, for the listeners who have been listening today, would like to find out more about your work and how can they get in touch with you and how can they find out about more what you're doing?
Okay, so if you search for The Disruptive Entrepreneur or, podcasts on iTunes or Stitcher, you'll find me and you can follow me. And if you search my name into Google, you'll find me across there. If you're interested in audio and books, I've written a book called Life Leverage, which is doing pretty well at the moment, which is how to get more done in less time, outsource everything, and create your ideal mobile lifestyle. So, hey, let's start there.
Awesome. And you've got a book coming out in June, a re-release, is that?
Yeah, that's Life Leverage.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So I'll make sure we have all the links to the book, the podcast, and your resources in the show notes. Rob, you've been an incredible guest. Thanks for your time today on the session. What an insightful episode. I really thank you for being on the show today.
And Dan, I just want to take time to say thank you to you. I'm very grateful. Thank you to everyone listening. I'm very grateful. Go out there and make a difference.
It was an honor to interview Rob today. He's achieved some amazing things and he's such an avid student of life. Rob's new book that he mentioned in the show, Life Leverage, is now available at Amazon and I cannot wait to get a copy. You'll find a link to the book in the show notes at danjgregory.com/37. I strongly encourage you to go and check it out and grab a copy for yourself. I walked away from today's interview with a whole list of tasks that I want to outsource in my business to create greater leverage. Right now, I'm running totally solo. So I'm actually actively looking for some volunteers to help me with the Unstoppable podcast. So if you fancy getting involved, please email me directly at theboss@danjgregory.com. That's theboss@danjgregory.com. I'll be sharing my debrief from today's episode on Monday, but I'll say this. I've been working hard to network up and have connected with some incredible people this year. But the next challenge for me is to connect with the rock stars in my own city in Bristol, which is the largest city in the southwest of England. So I'm sure there's some like-minded people out there to connect with, and that's one of my current focuses and goals. As always, the discussion continues after the show in the Unstoppable Mastermind on Facebook. So check out the group and on the blog. So head over to danjgregory.com/37 for the show notes. You'll also find a link there for the Unstoppable Mastermind. Don't forget to tune in on Monday for the debrief and all the latest Unstoppable insights. For now, it's time to unleash your greatness, build your empire, make your impact, and live your ultimate life. You are unstoppable.